1 year ago today, I testified against the man who hit me in the spine with a chair on May 10th of 2020. He and his lawyer were dishonorably able to push off the trial almost 2 years after this happened. This was all by design and on purpose. They have specific dishonorable tactics because they're not taking into consideration that there's a human being on the other side of things. But in this situation, his lawyer had interacted with me before and was aware that I was a human being. He also has daughters, which I think he should be ashamed of himself for treating women the way that he does. I was on the stand for 1 hour. I was taking a break from cannabis during that time and trying to heal, and that's when I was just able to lay in bed only. And I had to walk into court with a stick and a pillow to sit on because it's very uncomfortable to sit for long periods of time, especially if you're not using cannabis as medicine. And I sat there kind of observing this situation occur that I couldn't believe. I had a panic attack on the stand, which no, I didn't confuse with autonomic dysreflexia. Those of you that could confuse panic attacks for real physical injury are different than the life that I've led. So I had a panic attack on the stand. I cried, and then I, got together before his lawyer. And I didn't have a lawyer because the prosecutor was supposed to be representing me, or the state of Maine. So the prosecutor would have been the representation of this case taken over by the state of Maine to try to prevent exactly what happened from occurring. But the prosecutor only objected once in the very beginning, and the rest of the time he sat silent. And I was not able to speak out of turn because I was corrected if I wanted to ask something or say something for myself. So I was completely silenced, and I was unable to fully see everything that was used to help him get away with doing this. Now, he paid extra to have a jury trial, so he could be seen by more people. And anyway, he got away with everything he did. And I was really angry. So today's video, and I'm also going to try to be less angry now. So today's video, I want to try to keep a little bit short because I know everybody has a short attention span now. And this is already like 3 minutes in, so I probably lost like 80% of people who may have even watched it to begin with. But I want to talk about women and anger, and I want to talk about our expression of anger. And for me, I realized that this past year has been an experimentation because I'm in a safe place. No one's going to physically harm me for experimenting with my anger right now. So that's something that's really important. Now, in a healthy family or a healthy relationship, you would be able to navigate things like this together, and it would be a safe space for you to be a human being. But in my life, it's been unsafe for me to show many emotions because most of the people that I've been around preferred me to be lifting them up instead of to be supportive of me. So I realized that this past year has been about me experimenting with my anger. Every other emotion that I've had in my whole life, I know what it is. I know how to deal with it. I know how to interact with it. But anger's been this mystery to me. And for me, I wanted to communicate about things. And for my anger to deal with frustration, it was like run in the woods. That was my thing, or dance it out or sing it out. That was kind of my way of dealing with my anger, was to move it out. So this obviously has hindered my ability to do that, and also hindered my ability to go for drives, long drives in the car where I just sing. And all of these things have contributed to me not knowing how I'm supposed to, in the craziest, worst experiences of my life, express the frustration and anger that I have, that every single system failed, pretty much. There were a few that were okay. But during this time period. So another thing to speak on is that, anger was removed from the people because that keeps us complacent. And one of the ways that that happens is by showing us what our place is. So that's usually people with money, people with an important family name, or they had an important family at one time. And they forget that we're also human beings. So my whole life I've been subjected to that unfair scale of anger where it's literally like people have been able to treat me however they want, and I just have to sort of be like, okay, all right, I'm sorry, like fine, or I would get fired or isolated or anything. So it's also interesting to note the continuation of how women are perceived if we get angry, and how we're supposed to stick up for ourselves, and what it is to be expected, and also how society treats us. Because even if you have money or you have a position of power, why wouldn't you interact with everyone like they're a human being? As a waitress and bartender most of my life, and a worker, you know, I've seen every variation of human being and how they treat me. And a lot of people mistook server for servant still. And unfortunately, that was sort of what had to happen for places to stay open. They had to cater to these egos that had nothing to do with what it was supposed to be about, which is literally, giving people a meal and making sure they have what they need and interacting with them like human beings. But that's a whole other matter of humanity. But it is notable that my whole life, anything bad that happened and any unjust situation that occurred, I had to just keep my head down and keep moving forward, because I didn't have an option. I wasn't on the side of things that justice was going to happen for me, or that I could have spoke out about it and not ended up back in a negative situation because of that. So I learned to keep my mouth shut. But now I'm old enough to finally speak out about it because I'm being like a mama, right? So even though I didn't have any children, I have no biological children. I have loved and interacted with a lot of kids in my life. And for me now, this time period is about seeing all children of the earth as my children, and realizing that it's incredibly necessary for me to speak up now so that this doesn't keep happening. Because I'm speaking out about a lot of things that have happened to me in my life, but I had to keep my mouth shut, because if I didn't, I would have ended up back in a bad situation, just because people with more power, more money, had more strings, I guess, abused their power and got away with it. I don't know exactly why this earth operates that way. I just know that's what I've experienced. So there's a real role about an expression of anger and how you express it. So for me, before, again, I figured out what it was, like being in nature and movement. That combination was what it was, whether it's swimming at a lake, growing up, running through the woods, running on a mountainside, anything like that, dancing things out expressively, singing really loud in the car by myself so that no one's going to complain about my voice, which both of my long-term relationships never liked me singing ever. And they both complained about it and didn't want me to sing. So for me, being alone in the car was like a major part of things. It was like I could get my emotions out, and singing is a huge part of my life. I sing all the time because it's probably an autistic stim, along with dancing too. But at the same time, maybe it's just part of who we are as people, right? Like maybe that's just part of the people. There are a bunch of soul people that are similar, and we might not be the same, but we have this kind of similar kind of response and expression that we use. And it's valid and it's real, and it's not our fault that people chose to not want to know about it, or chose to not want to pay attention to it because they were too busy projecting themselves. And one thing that I realized through this year is that this anger has been, it's been interesting. Like, I'm kind of mean now. I'm mean now. And I say sometimes things that are mean, but then I'm like, you know what? It's okay, because I'm experimenting with this, and I apologize, and I kind of have my own way of dealing with these things. But also, I was in a strange situation because I was around really dishonorable people. And so I was put in situations where people set me up to trigger me and then to try to shame me for that. And that's not going to be a normal circumstance for people. You're going to be in a situation where that's not going to happen. You should be around people who are supportive of you and who you are and help you and help you express yourself, and you learn communication. But that's not what happened here. It was the exact opposite. So it also has been really challenging because, consistently trying to get medical help, having nobody take this seriously, and then, having people literally do things on purpose to try to see how angry I could get, like leaving things for my dog all around. At one point, she ate a piece of hair, my hair, that was dipped in something, because otherwise she never would have eaten my hair outside. And that was really scary for me because, again, I guess she's passed on now, but it's not real to me yet. She's my furry child. She is my baby. And, when people put her in danger, it upsets me. So it's funny to me that lots of these situations have been dishonorable. But of course, I have faith in Star Family and in things that are much bigger. So I know that my life has been seen by really powerful beings, and that all of these situations that have occurred have been noted, and all of the people involved have been noted. I do know that my version of anger is not calculating. It's not planned out. I'm not calculatingly mean. I don't understand people that are like that. And I've had my fair share of strange situations where I sort of feel like I'm removed and just observing everything. I've had a lot of ladies yell at me in parking lots, really inappropriately and really just in a bad way. And it was consistent enough in my lifetime to sort of not understand that method. But eventually I'll have had enough and I'll stick up for myself. But it does take a while to really, really bother me to the point where I'm going to do that. But then, people don't like to listen. They like to project a lot, and that's happened to me a lot. I've been around some really awful, calculating, manipulative, cruel people. And one thing I can say is that I am not calculatingly cruel, and I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful for all of the people, few though they may be in today's world, that are not that way, because it would have been such an easy world if we could have gravitated towards one another, because we would have been able to have a real communicative community and relationship, because we would have been being honest with each other, and we would have been able to be connected to the people that fit for us. And it wouldn't have been this mind game of unnecessary, calculating, manipulative, inhuman action. So all of that being said, this time period has been very, very intense for me, but also enlightening. I've learned a lot about myself, and I've had to rediscover the ways of dealing with my anger. So I think that it's really important that we as women are able to express our anger safely. And we are strong and we are powerful. And one of the hardest things about this time period is that I was always physically strong. Even when I had my 3 shoulder surgeries, I was in my 4-inch heels and I'd carry all the groceries on one side, and I was able to move really quickly. And then after I got hit in the spine with a chair, you can imagine how drastically it changed. I've shared it plenty. So it's been a really interesting path in a negative way. Interesting bad. So ideally, you're surrounded by people who are understanding and supportive of your need and your desire and your right to express your anger, because you have a right to stick up for yourself. You have a right to be human. And that means you have a right to feel all the emotions. And you have a right to tell people that in order for them to get your respect, then they need to be respectful of you too. Because this is not an old world anymore. Like, that's not going to work anymore. So I think it's really important for people to remember, what time period this is, and start to change drastically. But one thing that you can do that also, I have a lot of information on my website about children, working with children, and it's because it's really important. They're the future, and you can see a lot in somebody's birth chart, in their astrology chart, and so that's why I have an option for a child chart reading or a parent-child chart reading, because you can see it all. For instance, my ex and his daughter, they have a very similar eighth house. It's almost like it's the same sort of eighth house. And then I'm sure that her mother would show up too in her birth chart. And so it's really cool when you can compare family charts and you can see the similarities and the differences and where they got this from and how they're connected in each way and each person's perception, because people can deal with things differently, which is how you come across families where one person is isolated because they're different, and that just might mean that they're supposed to be a part of a different soul group in the future, or it's just a different path. But something that you can look at again is the Mars aspect, because as we all know, the terrible twos and the terrible threes is somebody's Mars return, the first one. And this is why it's important as conscious parents to not project yourself onto your child. This is a huge issue. Oh, she's like me. No, she's like me. No, they're like themselves, and they have a right to express their anger in a safe manner the way that they need to. So it's really important as parents to really think about that. How do they express their anger? What's necessary? How can you teach them a safe way to express their anger? And that's how you're going to serve your child in the future. And if you're not careful, you can create a mini tyrant. So you have to be really cautious about that age period because it's experimental. It needs to be a safe time period for the child to express themselves. And it also needs to be a communicative time. So if you are like most people, we come from generations and generations of abuse and of being low on the society totem pole and being in that situation. So it's kind of become like part of us to somehow believe that, we do need to be all sorry and constantly, asking forgiveness and feel guilty if we're ever angry or if we're ever rude or if we ever stick up for ourselves, and it's not the world anymore. We have to change and shift, because no matter what people have experienced before, just because I went through all of these hardships and these awful things, I don't even have children of my own, but I don't want anybody else's child to have to go through these things. This is awful. My experiences have been awful, and who knows what path my life could have taken had a few things been different. And it doesn't matter to me now. But it does matter to me that people could have a different future if the right people just came together and stopped and just remembered what time period this is. But again, expression of Mars is very beneficial. So if you're an astrologer, you might be, if you're still watching and you're an astrologer, you might be somebody who would be able to understand that my Mars is conjunct my Neptune. This is in Western astrology, not Vedic. My Mars is conjunct my Neptune in the 12th house, making a conjunction to my ascendant, which is all in Capricorn. And then I have a Sagittarius Uranus in the 12th house that is making a conjunction to my Sagittarius Moon and Saturn that's conjunct in the 11th house. And so that has really implemented a lot of things. And then right now, this time period, my second house has my Jupiter and my Mercury. So it's communication and it's the benefic planet. But also it's the planet where it will expand anything that needs attention. And again, I feel like this is a really good reminder for me, because I started to be silent after he got away with everything he did in court. I started to not be silent. I was angry because I needed medical help. And I also could not believe that things had gone the way they had. But I started at one point to be afraid of speaking up and speaking out. Because that's what people do. They want to silence you when you're speaking the truth about them. I love the meme that says, be careful destroying somebody with lies. Or be careful trying to destroy me with lies when I can destroy you with the truth. And it's true. Like, everything I've been saying is true. So, you know, all of these people had to stir up drama and lies and rumors and be manipulative and calculating. And all I have to do is speak because I'm telling the truth. And that's all that matters. So something that's interesting about my second house right now is that the asteroid Neptune is it's transiting my Mercury. So I'm finally speaking out about everything I've been through in my life because I'm almost 37 years old. So I'm at that point in life where I'm like, wait, this was not okay. This was wrong. So it's really interesting. If you track astrology, if you track a birth chart, it can be really helpful for parents to see. And I love to give people tips and help them. I've helped a lot of people understand astrology. It's very easy. And if you have questions, you can direct message me and I will happily share with you these things that I've observed since I was 19 and avidly studying astrology. So now I'm almost 37. So the understanding has been really beautiful. And then, of course, different teachers along the path and different wonderful books, which are teachers because they're people that wrote those books, and different websites. And you just get this beautiful full picture of everything. And it can be really helpful in learning about how to harness anger, how to express anger. Now, something else that's been frustrating is I express a lot of my emotions through art, through drawing, through writing. I've been a writer my whole life. And I had 3 shoulder surgeries in which they repaired my labrum, which is in here, shaved down my acromion, which is here, and then the last one cut and reattached my bicep tendon, which is here and here. There's scars on each side to show my here, right? It was only 10 months later that I was hit in the spine with a chair. And using a stick has not done me any favors in the healing of my bicep tendon, specifically the front one. I couldn't write right-handed even before he hit me in the spine with a chair. I couldn't write right-handed if I didn't use cannabis as medicine back then. So I was using a less amount, obviously, before I got hit in the spine with a chair. But that was also used in court. Like, somehow I was just confused because I used cannabis at the time for my bicep tendon. And I was confused about what happened to my back, my spine, when he hit me in the spine with a chair, which is why I speak out so much about that as well. And I assure you, I'm an incredibly clear-minded woman. And I have a great memory. And as much as his lawyer uses fallacy and tries to trap people by triggering them, and as much as I did have a panic attack on the stand before, he only tripped me up once, and it's because he literally used fallacy. He used a word to try to make it seem like I was just confused about what happened. Now that's a tactic that men use to diminish women and to continue to keep us in our place. But again, if you communicate with me, you'll find I'm incredibly clear-minded and I have a great memory. So great. And that's what makes people really upset with me. And I have a tendency to speak the truth, which also is very triggering for people for some reason. So the combination, it was just a year ago today was eye-opening for me. And the reason I spoke out about it so much is because I was like, wow, there are teenage girls who go through this process, and if they don't have support, like when I was a teenage girl and I didn't have support, and if that had happened to me, if I had chosen to testify against someone, if I had gone forward about some of the things I had gone through, that would have happened to me as a teenager, and it would have destroyed me, and I never would have spoken up ever again. So as much as it was hard to continue to take this really unjust abuse and just continue to move forward, I also am glad that I'm speaking out now because I have a power now that I didn't have when I was a teenager, which is pretty common. But it's important for you to remember as a woman and as a teenager and as a girl that your voice actually does matter and that your expression of anger matters and that finding safe expression is very natural and very normal. And speaking out is important because you're not speaking out about little things. Somebody forgot your lime at a restaurant. Somebody, it's not like a drama fest. It's real things that have happened that you're speaking out about. You know, going to jail when you shouldn't have, being arrested when you shouldn't have, having somebody illegally abuse your human rights. I've spoken about enough abuse, so I'm not going to bring it all up, but I've been speaking out about it, and everything I've been saying is true. So if you care, you can go back through my social media. You don't have to. Just be aware that expression of anger is incredibly important, and that we need to be able to find a safe way to outlet our anger. And I've decided that today I'm going to try to rein my anger in, because I'm like, what kind of mean am I, right? What kind of anger do I have? If I can't run mountains, and I can't swim, and I can't sing in my car, and I can't do all of these things, what can I do to express my anger? And sometimes I can't write or draw. And so it's been really wild to try to navigate. Sufi spinning for a while was very fulfilling for me because it was movement. And eventually I didn't have pain after doing it long enough. There was like, my body would sort of elevate in a way. And it allowed me to have less pain. So that was really beneficial. But there's not many things that I can do consistently unless I'm really careful. I have to approach everything carefully, because again, autonomic dysreflexia. Feel free to Google it if you don't know what that is. So anyway, I just wanted to speak out about anger, about women expressing their anger, about society needing to respect everyone. You need to respect everybody. There's no like, you know, I don't remember the system name. I do remember the word. I just don't want to say it incorrectly. But, you know, this is a new world. And just because I went through hardship doesn't mean that the future generations need to. You know, just because you went through hardship doesn't mean that everybody younger than you needs to. It means we need to change the world, and we need to do better, because this is a time of adjustment. This is a time of adjustment. And the old models don't work anymore. The repressive, keep women silenced, keep people on the bottom silenced. We're not going to acknowledge reality. We're going to get away with awful things. That kind of stuff, that's old. That is no longer going to work. And this will be a time period of great truth, where a lot of things that, you know, again, the truth will be revealed. That's the reality. The truth will be revealed. So this time period was about people doing the right thing, not the usual thing. You know, a lot of people were like, why don't you try to go back to court? Because it's pointless. They lied. That's on them now. This was a time of great shifting and transition. Those that lied are going to be the ones who pay the ultimate price, because this was supposed to be a time of change and of ascending and of coming together, reuniting and remembering our point and purpose here. So that's why, you know, why didn't I get a lawyer and sue the hospital who, you know, was dishonorable and deleted and covered up my records, or the doctor? Because that's the usual thing. That's not what this time is about. They were supposed to tell the truth. And if not, again, that's on them. Karmically, and on a much bigger way, right? So I definitely thought more people would do the right thing. I really did. So it was a little shocking when people didn't. And that makes me mad. When people say they're going to tell the truth and then don't, that makes me really angry. But this is a time period of adjustment. So things have not been easy for me, but also it could have been much worse during this time period. And again, just to reiterate, I haven't died from autonomic dysreflexia since February 11th, 2022. So that is very exciting for me. And I am going to try to shift more into how I healed, how I dealt with anger, the ways that I dealt with rehabilitating a spinal cord injury, how to do it alone. All of those things I'm going to try to touch on and share, while also trying to make sure that I can attempt to want to be here on this earth. Because at this point, since 2020 in the summer, I wrote about it in August, about the stars feeling like my family, and me feeling closer to the stars than I do to people, and feeling like that's where I belong. And that's not going to change for me. I'm going to feel more connected to the stars, and I'm going to be ready to meet them for the rest of my life here, because I don't understand it here, and because I've been dead. So it's not going to be possible for me to see here the same way. And that's also okay. And there are a lot of people like me, and that's okay. It's not bad, it's not sad. We just have a greater understanding of existence, and we've seen it, and we're ready. Because maybe it's painful to be here. I'm in a lot of pain. This has not been easy. And then when you add isolation and people not really listening, all people not really doing the right thing or being honest. But again, this is a great time period of adjustment. So anyway, 1 year ago, but I'm going to try today to be less angry moving forward, and really try to redesign a way that is healthy for me to express my anger. What is that going to look like? How does it serve me? What can I do to direct it in a positive manner? And how do I move forward in my future with this crippled body? And again, those are major things for me. All of the things I wished for and dreamed of are now not going to be, and certainly have not been easy. But I have to still move forward if I wake up here every day.